Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to Andy's Reviews, and today we are going to be reviewing Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, directed by George Miller, and starring the likes of Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, Tom Burke, Nicholas Hoult, and a whole bunch of other actors. Let's get into it. Before we even begin discussing the pros of this movie, I just have to say that this was my first Mad Max movie, and to be completely honest with you, this movie was a very, very good introduction for me into the franchise, and I have to admit that I might have to check out the rest of the movies in this franchise. To be completely honest with you, George Miller did a phenomenal job in introducing the lore of the Wastelands, and honestly, the world building in this movie was something very unique and very worth experiencing in the movie theaters itself, and yeah, that's one of the reasons why I liked it. And of course, the second main reason why I thoroughly enjoy this movie has to be both Anya Taylor-Joy's and Chris Hemsworth's performances in this movie. To be completely honest with you, Anya Taylor-Joy did an amazing job in this movie, especially the way she was able to communicate a bunch of information to the audience with little to no dialogue whatsoever. To be completely honest with you, I think Anya Taylor-Joy had less than 2 minutes of actual dialogue in the movie, and basically all of her interpretation of this character of Furiosa was left up to her facial expressions, and I have to admit, they were absolutely incredible. And don't even get me started on Chris Hemsworth's performance in this movie. I believe that this movie has one of Chris Hemsworth's best performances in his entire acting career, but not his most memorable character. That would be Thor. But to be completely honest with you, his performance in this movie has to be one of, if not the best performance he has ever given in a Hollywood movie. And honestly, the way he was able to be funny, intimidating, violent, and all of that personalities that come with the character of Dementis that he played in this movie, it was absolutely incredible, and honestly, the character of Dementis in this movie has to be one of the most memorable villains of all the movies that had come out this year thus far. And yeah, I really, really think that Chris Hemsworth really, really stole the show this movie. And I would say, or argue, that this movie is really, really Dementis' movie rather than Furiosa's movie, but that's just opinion. And if you have any thoughts regarding that opinion, feel free to let me know in the comments. Let's start a debate on whose movie this really is. And yeah. And of course, the third main reason why I thoroughly enjoy this movie has to be the amazing world building that I already mentioned previously. In my honest opinion, George Miller did a phenomenal job introducing new audience members to the world of the Wastelands. And to be completely honest with you, I felt that I already watched the previous Mad Max movies when I saw this movie. And when I went to go check online to see other critics' reviews on this movie, they all said that this movie is a really, really good prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015. And to be completely honest with you, this movie really, really made me want to check out that movie, and I cannot wait to check out the movie this weekend so I can write a review for the future. And yeah, honestly, George Miller did an amazing job establishing the Gasoline Town, the Citadel, the Wastelands, the green area in which everybody in the movie was trying so hard to desperately to get at the beginning part of the movie. Honestly, I love the lore of this movie, and yeah, it was just awesome. And of course, the fourth main thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the costume designs and the makeup designs of the movie. To be completely honest with you, I was completely blown away with the design of the people who lived in the Wastelands and how they all had different prosthetics, skin tones, color dyes, everything, different costumes. It was all absolutely amazing and really, really made the world of the Wastelands feel truly lived in. I especially loved the design of Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth. His design as a cool, godly looking figure in the movie was absolutely incredible. I especially loved the way that he had a white coat when he was first introduced in the movie. When Furiosa was brought to him for the very first time, honestly, that design and that costume looked absolutely incredible. And to be completely honest with you, when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I did not recognize Chris Hemsworth in this role, especially with the crooked nose that he has. And honestly, it took me like a while to actually realize it was actually him because of his voice. But yeah, the costume prosthetics were all absolutely phenomenal. And yeah. And of course, the fifth main thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the amazing soundtrack and sound mixing of this movie. To be completely honest with you, the composer of this movie, this guy right here, did an amazing job capturing the world of the Wastelands to the point where he even used drums in order to increase the suspense of a scene. For example, there's this one scene at the beginning of the movie where we see a character, okay, this character right here, running across the desert as we, the audience, get to hear the drums playing in the background as she stomps all over the sand. It sounded absolutely incredible, especially if you watch the movie in IMAX. And honestly, the sound design and the music choices in this movie were all absolutely incredible. And don't even get me started on the ending music or the end credits music at the end of the movie. That sounded really phenomenal. And if you happen to know the name of that song, please feel free to let me know down in the comments. I would really appreciate it. I tried everything, couldn't find it whatsoever. So please let me know. And yeah. And of course, the sixth main thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie has to be the fact that this movie barely has any miscellaneous characters, to the point where every character in this movie serves a purpose. Some of my personal favorite characters from this movie was a big white dude with a big weird hair. I don't know what it's called, but here's a picture of him. Another character that I thoroughly enjoyed was the character played by Tom Burke. If you know the name of that character, please let me know in the comments, because am really fascinated by the characters in this movie and all the backstory behind those characters and how they play a critical role in the wasteland. It was absolutely incredible, which of course brings me to reason 6.5 as to why I like this movie. I thoroughly enjoy this movie because every character is absolutely memorable, to the point where you can automatically visualize the personality of that character in your head. It was absolutely impeccable and incredible. And yeah. However, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that this movie is without flaws. Some of the things that I do not like about this movie has to be the fact that this movie really doesn't have a rewatchability scale to it. To be completely honest with you, this movie is a one and done movie. It barely has any rewatchability to it, especially considering how I watched the movie for the second time in the theaters and was absolutely bored out of my mind, since I already knew everything that was going to happen in this movie. In my own personal opinion, this movie is only worth watching once, because the surprises in this movie only deserve to be experienced one time, and that's it. And basically, if you were to rewatch this movie already knowing the events of the movie, this movie really has no emotional impact to you, since you already know what's going to happen. Unlike other movies such as Christopher Nolan's Inception, Oppenheimer, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, which all have a high rewatchability rate, compared to this movie, which really has no rewatchability to it. That's just my opinion, and yeah. And of course, the second main reason why I did not like this movie in order to create an impartial review has to be the way that the movie ended, and how the relationship between both Furiosa and Dementis ended at the end of the movie. To be completely honest with you, the ending was a complete letdown. I will not spoil the ending, but honestly, the movie built up the revenge plot up to a high point, to the point where I was actually let down when the moment of revenge reached its peak at the climax of the film. I honestly sat in the theater being like, that was a complete waste of 2 hours. Bro, literally, they spent 2 hours building up to the climax of the movie and the final confrontation between both Dementis and Furiosa, and I was just in complete shock as to the ending of the relationship. And yeah. And of course, the third main thing that I did not like about this movie in order to create an impartial review has to be the fact that this movie CGI really isn't complete. There are some scenes with amazing CGI, yet there are other scenes with absolutely horrendous CGI. For example, there's this one scene where we see Chris Hemsworth's character of Dementis driving a truck, where we the audience can obviously tell that there was actually unfinished compositing in the frame of the movie, to the point where we could tell that Chris Hemsworth's body was inserted into the frame of CGI, which really took away from the immersiveness of the movie. But other than that, I would say that 90% of the CGI in this movie is absolutely impeccable, besides that 10% of the movie which was really distracting. But other than that, the movie's CGI is truly impeccable, and yeah. And of course, the fourth main thing that I did not like about this movie in order to create an impartial review has to be the fact that this movie's runtime drags on for a little bit too long. To be completely honest with you, when I first watched this movie like about 2 weeks ago, the movie's runtime was absolutely perfect, especially considering how the movie spends a lot of time building up the world of the wastelands. But when I went back to rewatch the movie for a second time a week later, I could obviously tell that the movie had some serious pacing issues. To be completely honest with you, there were points when I was rewatching this movie that I was completely bored out of my mind. I literally just stared at the ceiling of my theater, thinking to myself, why in the 7 seas did I decide to rewatch this movie for a second time? Literally, the pacing of the movie was absolutely horrendous in the second watch, to the point where I was bored out of my mind. And yeah, I was bored. Well, there you have it. When it comes to placing this movie on the Andy's Reviews grading system, I have to say that this movie deserves roughly 7.5 chimichangas out of 10 chimichangas, a rewatchability score of almost never, especially considering how the movie really has no rewatchability value once you already know what happens in the movie, and of course an overall grade of a B-. Well, there you have it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, drop a comment down below letting me know your thoughts about this movie, and don't forget to hit the like button down below to help out with the YouTube algorithm, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next adventure.